Hello, welcome to Invictus. I'm joking, just reviewing this trail right behind you, and I'm joking. We get back to this 911 right behind us. This was a bit of a dramatic entrance because we've got a dramatic car over here. This is the Porsche 911 Turbo, and I get asked normally what's my favorite generation of 911s. It genuinely is this generation, and this in particular is the last of the 911 with a Mezger engine. So it's a 3.6 litre twin turbocharged, and there's so much to go with this 911 in terms of spec, engineering, just the performance, the gearbox. The turbos for the first time are turbo, that are the VTG, the Variable Turbine Geometry system in it. So at all speeds, the exhaust gases are being used to give you the appropriate power, and then the gearbox is just something else. Let's get into driving this off the get-go and tell you more about what it's like to drive, how it handles, what it sounds like, and why you should buy this. I always love getting into these cars. Nothing more satisfying than driving one of these 911s, and trust me, I'd do anything to experience this. One of the things that I wanted you to experience right from the get-go, and obviously the engine is a bit warm, so it's difficult to get you to hear this completely from a cold start, was the Klein Innovation circa 5,000 pound exhaust system. And even on this slightly short run, letting it go through the rev range and the gears, and it was only really going up to second gear, I think it sounds absolutely incredible, especially when you consider what the stock exhaust system sounds like, because with the stock sound exhaust, I think it's just a bit too flat. With the Klein Innovation exhaust system, you've got the tone of the GT2, and you've got a lot more pulses through the rev range, and whether you're in the lower gear or the high gear. And this is, in my opinion, what I think the factory exhaust system should have been like. You of course also benefit from the fact that you've got slightly more bhp because it's a lighter exhaust system, but also the gases circulate a lot more efficiently, and it being stainless steel, it lasts literally the absolute lifetime and doesn't corrode and break up, unfortunately, like the factory exhaust system. In terms of performance, what has this 911 got to offer to you performance numbers wise? You of course got the 3.6 litre twin turbocharged engine producing 480 bhp. With a Klein exhaust system, I'd say you're looking at near enough 500 bhp, 620 newton meters of torque. Again, with a Klein Innovation exhaust system, you're looking at about 640, 650 newton meters of torque. A 0 to 62 miles per hour possible in 3.7 seconds, a top speed of 193 miles an hour. Just going through this short burst and opening up the car a little bit and taking it up to circa 60 miles an hour, as we've got the national speed limit here on the countryside lanes, it sounds phenomenal. With the sunroof open, I could actually feel the pressure through my ears. There's so much I'd like to cover in this video, but one of the main topics that I wanted to cover in this video was the Tiptronic S transmission. This is an absolute godsend of a transmission. In my experience over the years, there hasn't been a transmission as good as the Tiptronic transmission that we, when I say Porsche, have taken from Mercedes. But over the years, they've improved it, perfected it, and this is absolutely the peak of this transmission. When I say this is the peak, what I mean by that is that it's not rushing you through the gears and getting you into the highest possible gear as quick as possible. Unlike the PDK, they're 5-speed. The PDK is 7-speed. This is 5-speed. This is not rushing you, like I said, unlike the PDK, quickly into that 7th gear, even when you're doing 30 or 40 miles an hour. The benefits is that this is the first time Porsche in a 911, especially the turbo, has got the self-shifting transmission. What I mean by that is that if you are accelerating and still have your foot on the throttle gently, this isn't going into the highest possible gear straight away. Also, when you're braking, it picks that up quite quickly, especially around bends, that it will downshift quite rapidly. And the same applies when you are accelerating out of that bend. It will hold that gear or drop that gear depending on optimizing the power out of this car as best as possible. The Tiptronic S transmission in this last generation, of course, in the 911 turbos, for Porsche to actually put it into the last of Porsches by Porsche, has had to make an absolute statement. Just to put this transmission in context, it costs circa £1,600 more than a manual transmission. Also, the figures in terms of a 0 to 62 miles per hour in a manual transmission is 3.9 seconds. In this is 3.7 seconds. I'll put the sports mode on as well, so you could hear the exhaust note change. So the fact that it's got the Klein Innovation sports exhaust system, which is lighter, you've got the Sports Chrono Plus package. Let's hear what it sounds like. And then, for the first time ever, you've got the biggest possible brakes that Porsche could put onto one of their 911 turbos. These are 20mm bigger than the 996. You've got the single monoblock 6-piston brakes at the front, the 4-piston brakes at the back, and then not forgetting the twin turbo charged 3.6 litre engine, because this is for the first time having the VTG technology, the Variable Turbine Geometry. So you've got the exhaust gases. You've got the exhaust gases at all power range. At all power range, having to the turbos recycling those exhaust gases to obviously provide you the adequate power. And just going to go through the menu, and this time looking at the turbo outage in bars that you've got. So you've got bang in the middle 0.6 going up to 1.2. I'll also slide the gear selector over from D to manual. I'm now in 2nd gear. I'll actually drop it to 1st gear, and you're not feeling that jerk going back into 1st gear. And let's experience it changing the gears naturally. Just sensational, and that's the one word I'd like to use to describe this experience. Also, just exhilarating, full of the pleasure that one of these cars have to offer. From a driving point of view, it genuinely doesn't get any better than this setup over here. And I've always been a huge fan of the Tiptronic transmission, and hopefully people are watching this video and if they're thinking about whether to buy a 911 with a Tiptronic transmission, then my advice would be, yes, please do it. Not only does the Tiptronic transmission offer you that driver focus, drivability, and the input that you need to put into one of those. You could see me shifting down gears, shifting up gears through the buttons here on the steering wheel, but you can also just put it back into the standard drive mode, switch off sports chrono, and just poodle along in it. And it does that incredibly well. And then at any point coming up to this bend, as an example, I want to put my foot down, I can. I'm braking hard, I'm in third gear, and it's dropping to second gear. And it's done that, like I said, going back to the self-shifting transmission. And braking hard, it went up to third as I was accelerating, going up a gear, and then it dropped back down to second, and now it's in first gear, and it's able to do this seamlessly. And I think it's done it probably quite controversially, I must add, even better than the first generation of the PDK, because Porsche, alongside the ZF company, they are specialists in making automatic transmission, went out of their way to create a gearbox with the ZF company that they only had sole licensing to use in their cars after this. And they didn't want that gearbox being used in sort of other cars, whether that be Bentley, whether that be Volkswagen or Audi or so forth, and that's why they went down that route. But I don't think the PDK is as good of a gearbox in the first generation 911s and as a matter of fact, the irony is they put it into the 997.2, which is basically the 997.2 is a slight facelift version with sort of obviously the daytime LED running lights, and of course you had the LED lights at the back. And those were the key critical changes on the .2 997. And of course, the engine setup was rather different. On the Carrera S or the Carrera 2 or the Carrera 4S, they became DFI. Whereas this is the Mezger engine. This is the absolute daddy of engines. And in terms of you wanting a bulletproof engine in a Porsche 911, look no further. This doesn't get any more old school, analog, and as thrilling as you get it in the 911 997.1 Turbo. And hopefully this is enough of a pitch to explain to you why you should consider buying this. And in the next part of this video, let's talk about the spec and the paperwork if you're considering buying it. And now on to showing you everything that is special about this. Finished in this bezel black metallic, matching the 19-inch 911 turbos, which I think look great with those red calipers and those brakes being circa 20 millimeters bigger than the brakes that were on the 996. And also the front are 6 pistons monoblock and the rear are 4 pistons. On the inside, I know I've quickly let you into what it's like right at the intro, but here you've got the 12-way electrical adjustable seats, the memory, you've got lumbar support, you've got the sunroof, Alcantara headlining, this beautiful natural leather tanned, it's brown with Apple CarPlay, cruise control, the sports chrono as a optional package, Porsche crest on the headlining, and you've got the proper 2+2 setup here as well, which I think looks absolutely fantastic. We head over to the front just to tell you the practicality that this has to offer to you. You can get a normal size human being into these cars, so plenty of space here. By this, what I mean is that you can get 2 medium-sized suitcases in here and still have a bit of leftover space just in front of the knees for jackets and so forth. With these headlights, these are xenon headlights, and hence why you've got this little sprinkly thing that sprinkles onto these headlights. And styling wise, it doesn't get any more aggressive, especially finding what you've got here from the sport design package. And of course you've got daytime sort of fog lights and the side lights over there as well, and you've got the daytime lights at the bottom that are LEDs. Coming to the side, what I love is this special feature in terms of folding the side door mirror, is using that little clip, and if you want to put it back, that's how you go about it. I love the scoops on the side on the 911 Turbo, since they are wider body, and the same goes on the 4S. And then coming to this back rear boot lid, you've got turbo written here. You've got this big huge spoiler that lifts up for extra drag force. Here automatically says Porsche Turbo Variable Turbine Geometry, twin turbocharged. You've got the engine mounts, one to the left, another to the right. You can see quite a bit here in terms of the engine oil, the coolant levels, and so forth. In terms of servicing, the air filter is here, and you can also access quite a few of the other bits and pieces from there as well. You've got the Tech Art Klein sports exhaust system, which you could actually hear in the test drive how amazing it sounded. And coming over to the front, sorry, not to the front, to that whole wider rear end, it's got the later upgraded LED lights that you could buy and put onto this. And still continuously you've got this beautiful cutout here that obviously cools down your intercoolers, and you've got your turbos right up there in that corner. So all in, from a spec point of view, it genuinely doesn't get any better than this. The next thing that I'd like to naturally move on to is to show you a little bit of the paperwork. And the sunroof is probably on this, one of my favorite features. You've got a beautiful file of paperwork. Everything you need to know about this vehicle is all here. Mr. Gary McGregor, he's owned this since 2020 up until 2026 when we took it into our stock. I've known this car back and forth for a bit of time, and obviously this is all the bio here paperwork wise. HPI, which is all nice and clean, no issues there. Spec list, huge spec on this. You could see this, and obviously over the years these have become incredibly sought after. £88,000 when it was brand new. These are going to be the 911s which I feel they will go in value the most. And of course there are examples of these now for £80,000. Just this summer alone, some of these people are asking £20,000 to £30,000 more for it. In terms of optional spec, it's got things like obviously the electric sunroof there. Another big ticket item is the natural brown leather interior. You've got the Porsche crest on the headrest, the cruise control. The Tiptronic S transmission cost £1,668, and you saw me explaining on a test drive all the phenomenal intelligence that gearbox has. And of course you've got the Sports Chrono Plus package, which cost extra, as well as the telephone modules and the front and rear parking sensors. There's a bio here of the service history. It's never missed any of its servicing. You've got 2009, 2011, 13, 13 again, 15, 15, 15, all the works, 15, 16, 18, 18, 19, 21, 24, and of course 26, where we've done the big major service, which cost circa £4,000, and that included the new water pump, spark plugs, ignition coils, the fuel filter, you name it. We've given this a full-on once-over in terms of just the overall mechanical state of mind we needed to get this to. This is the health check. Also tested things like the battery, the starter motor, the alternator, and this shows you the life of all the tires. There are 6 mils at the front, 5 mils at the back, and the brakes, discs and pads are all like brand new, so they're between 80 to 90%. And we've also done an over rev report as well as a bore scope inspection on this, which is all good and clear. Even though this is a Mezger engine, it doesn't need to have that bore scope inspection. Loads of invoices of all previous works that it's had over the years. So just flicking through it quickly so I'm not boring you guys. And towards the end we've got the service book alongside it being shown here that Mr. Gary has owned this since December 2020. Hopefully I've kind of told you everything you needed to know about this 911. If it's something you're interested in buying, genuinely, I wouldn't look no further. I love the interior, I love the contrast, and of course it makes it very roomy with this leather interior. So hopefully I've done a good job showing you this car, explaining this car to you and why you should perhaps consider buying it. I really appreciate you watching this. Thank you.